Do you remember the weight of a letter in your hands? Its edges worn, its ink a promise from someone far away? In the summer of 1958, on a quiet street in a small Ohio town, I learned a lesson about love that I carry still, like a photograph tucked in my wallet, faded but never forgotten. My name is Thomas, though back then everyone on Maple Street called me Tommy. I was 16, all elbows and dreams, living in a clapboard house with a creaky front porch, where my grandmother, Clara, held court every evening. She was a woman of few words but endless stories, her eyes crinkling like the pages of the old books she loved. Our town, Willow Creek, was the kind of place where time moved slow, like molasses dripping from a spoon. The general store sold penny candy, the diner's jukebox played Elvis, and every Sunday, the church bells sang us all to worship. But it was the letters, the ones Clara kept in a cedar box under her bed, that shaped my summer and my life. Clara had grown up in Willow Creek, born in 1900, when horses still clopped down Main Street. She'd married my grandfather, Henry, in 1920, and they'd built a life together, raising my mother in that same house. Henry passed when I was 6, leaving behind a quiet that never quite left Clara's eyes. But she had her letters. Every evening, as the fireflies blinked and the crickets hummed, she'd sit on the porch, a glass of iced tea sweating in her hand, and read one of those letters. Sometimes she'd read aloud, her voice soft as a hymn, telling stories of her youth, courting Henry, dancing at the county fair, or watching the first car rumble into town. I'd sit cross-legged at her feet, listening, imagining a world I'd never know. That summer, though, something changed. It started with a letter that arrived in June. Its envelope yellowed, the postmark smudged, but dated 1933. It was addressed to Clara, in a handwriting I didn't recognize, and it came with no return address. I found it on the kitchen table one morning, tucked under a jar of homemade peach jam. Clara was at the stove, stirring oatmeal, her apron dusted with flour. I held up the letter, curious. "Who's this from, Grandma?" Her hand froze mid-stir. She turned, her face a mix of wonder and something heavier, grief, maybe, or hope. "That's a ghost come calling, Tommy," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She took the letter, her fingers trembling, and slipped it into her apron pocket. Some stories need time before they're told. I didn't push. Clara had a way of teaching you patience, not with words, but with the way she lived, deliberate, like she was savoring every moment. But that letter haunted me. I'd catch her reading it late at night, her silhouette framed by the glow of a single lamp, her lips moving silently. I wanted to know its story, but I knew better than to ask. Clara would share when she was ready. Willow Creek in 1958 was a world of routines. Mornings began with the milkman's clinking bottles, afternoons with the hum of lawnmowers, and evenings with neighbors chatting across picket fences. I worked part-time at Mr. Harlan's general store, stocking shelves with cans of Campbell's soup and boxes of Jell-O. Mr. Harlan, a widower with a laugh like a foghorn, was another figure in my life who seemed to carry the past like a badge. He'd tell stories of the Great Depression, when folks traded eggs for flour, or the war years, when the store's radio crackled with news of battles far away. "Life's a ledger, Tommy," he'd say, tapping his ledger book. "Every debit's got a credit, every loss a gain. You just gotta wait for the balance." I didn't fully understand him then, but his words stuck, like the scent of pipe tobacco that clung to his flannel shirts. At the store, I'd overhear seniors swapping tales of their own. First loves, lost friends, moments that shaped them. It was as if Willow Creek was a tapestry, each story a thread, and I was just beginning to see its pattern. One evening, as the sun painted the sky pink, Clara called me to the porch. She held the mysterious letter, its edges soft from handling. "Sit, Tommy," she said, patting the wicker chair beside her. The air smelled of honeysuckle, and a breeze rustled the maple trees that gave our street its name. She handed me the letter, her eyes searching mine. "This is from Ellie," she said, "my oldest friend." Ellie, I learned, was Clara's childhood companion, a girl with braids and a laugh that could light up a room. They'd grown up together, sharing secrets and dreams in the fields behind Willow Creek. Ellie wanted to be a writer, Clara, a teacher. They'd write letters to each other, even living just a mile apart. Practicing for the day, they'd chase their dreams in far-off cities. But life had other plans. Clara married Henry, stayed in Willow Creek, and raised a family. Ellie left in 1930, bound for Chicago, promising to write. And she did, for a while. Then the letters stopped. Clara heard whispers that Ellie had married, had a child, but no word came directly. The silence stretched across decades, a wound Clara never spoke of. This letter, postmarked 1933, was the last Ellie ever sent. Clara read it aloud, her voice steady but thick with emotion. Ellie wrote of a life unraveling. Her husband had lost his job in the Depression. Her daughter was sick, and she was struggling to keep hope. She apologized for not writing sooner, for letting distance grow. "I miss you, Clara," the letter ended. "I miss the girls we were. If you ever find this, know I'm still your friend." I sat silent, the weight of those words settling over me. "Why'd it come now?" I asked. Clara sighed, folding the letter. "Someone found it, maybe in an attic or a post office's lost mail. It took 25 years to find me." She looked out at the street where fireflies were beginning to dance. Sometimes love takes its time to speak. Over the next weeks, Clara told me more about Ellie. They'd spent summers picking blackberries, winters skating on the frozen creek. Ellie had a way of making the ordinary magical, turning a picnic into an adventure, a rainy day into a story. Clara kept every letter Ellie sent, storing them in that cedar box, a treasure chest of their youth. But the silence after 1933 had left a hole in Clara's heart. She'd wondered if Ellie was ashamed, or angry, or simply lost to time. I started noticing letters everywhere that summer. Not just Clara's, but the ones neighbors mentioned. Love notes from soldiers, apologies from estranged siblings, thank yous from old teachers. Willow Creek seemed to hum with the ghosts of words unspoken, waiting to be read. At the general store, Mr. Harlan showed me a letter his brother sent from the Pacific in '44, promising to come home. He never did. "Letters are promises, Tommy," he said. "Even if they're broken, they mean something." I began writing letters of my own, to Clara, to my parents, even to myself, sealing them with a vow to open them years later. It felt like planting seeds, hoping they'd grow into something lasting. Clara encouraged me, her pen scratching late into the night as she wrote back to the ghost of Ellie, though she had no address to send it to. One August morning, a second letter arrived. This one was fresh, postmarked from Chicago, 1958. It was from Ellie's daughter, Margaret. She'd found Clara's address in her mother's belongings after Ellie passed the previous year. Margaret wrote of her mother's love for Clara, how she'd spoken of their childhood until her final days. Enclosed was that 1933 letter, discovered in a post office's dead letter office, along with a note, "Mama always hoped you'd read this." Clara wept as she read, her hands steady but her eyes brimming. I sat beside her, feeling the weight of a friendship that had outlasted time. Margaret's letter told of Ellie's life, a struggle through the depression, a quiet joy in raising her daughter, a regret for the silence that grew between her and Clara. "Mama said you taught her to be brave," Margaret wrote. "She wanted you to know she never forgot." That evening, Clara and I sat on the porch, the cedar box open between us. She handed me a letter she'd written, addressed to Margaret. "I'm sending this tomorrow," she said. "It's time to answer." Her letter was simple, full of gratitude for the years she and Ellie shared, and for the chance to reconnect through Margaret. "Life's too short for silence, Tommy," she said. "Say what matters while you can." We mailed the letter the next day, walking to the post office together. The air was thick with summer's end, the maples turning gold. Clara moved slower now, her steps careful, but her smile was bright. I realized then that her stories, her letters, were her way of teaching me to hold on to what matters, to love fiercely, to forgive freely, to live with patience. Years later, long after Clara was gone, I found her cedar box in the attic. Inside were her letters, Ellie's, and the ones I'd written that summer. I read them under the same porch light, hearing her voice in every word. I wrote to Margaret too, and we became friends, sharing stories of our families, keeping Clara and Ellie's bond alive. Life moves fast now, doesn't it? We type messages, send emails, let moments slip away. But a letter, its ink, its creases, holds a kind of magic. It's a promise, a memory, a piece of someone's heart. I learned that summer that love doesn't fade, even when silence tries to claim it. It waits, patient, until it's found again. So sit down tonight. Write a letter to a friend, a parent, or even yourself. Seal it, save it, or send it. Let it carry your heart across the years. And in the comments below, tell me, who would you write to if time could carry your words?